My life has been wonderful. Really, I wouldn't give it for anything in the world. It wasn't what I thought it would be or what I had dreamed about. You won't believe how happy Linda Evans is now that she is 82 years old. Before she made $100,000 a show, now she cuts her own wood in the middle of nowhere. The TV star who used to have everything quit Hollywood, went to a secret hideout in Washington, and then was never seen again. But that's not the most crazy thing about it. She was caught at age 74. She shocked everyone when she came back at age 79. And wait until you hear what she did with a live eel on TV. It broke the internet. Linda Evans was born in Hartford, Connecticut, on November 18, 1942. Her real name was Linda Evenstad. A big part of who she was her Norwegian background. The name Evenstad came from a small farm in Nesmark where her great-grandmother on her dad's side lived before coming to the United States in 1884. Elaine and Alba Evans had 3 children. She was the second one. Artistry and performing were always a part of her home life since both of her parents were skilled dancers. But Linda was a very shy child who tried to avoid notice at all costs, even though she lived in a world full of fun. To North Hollywood, California, they moved when she was only 6 months old. They had been living in Hartford. She had no plans to work in show business after this change, but it put her right in the middle of it. Carol Wells and Stephanie Powers, 2 future stars, were in the same classes with her at Hollywood High School. The fact that her parents loved performing never had much of an effect on her. They did well being the center of attention, but Linda liked being in the background. She was cripplingly shy, which made it hard for her to be herself around other people. They knew she needed help getting over her fear of being noticed when she was 14. Not to push her toward a job in Hollywood, but to help her feel better about herself, they told her to take acting classes. At first she wasn't sure. It was scary to perform in front of people, but acting gave her something she didn't expect. It made her feel safe enough to say what she wanted. She didn't feel open, instead she felt free. She was able to show feelings she had always hid by taking on different parts. Everything changed because of that choice. She went to a test for a TV commercial with a friend when she was 15. Linda was there to help her friend feel better when she was scared. She didn't want to try out, but fate had other ideas. She was at an interview when a director saw her and asked if she wanted to read for the part. She agreed, even though she had never tried out for anything before. She was shocked when she got the part. That sudden event exposed her to acting in a way she had not planned. The ad opened up more doors. Soon she was working as a model and getting small parts on TV. The first time she spoke on TV was in 1960 on the famous show Bachelor Father. She met John Forsythe for the first time on the set. They didn't know it at the time, but they would meet again in a way that would change both of their careers. She was also on The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, which was another popular show at the time. Small parts in her early roles helped Linda get used to being in front of the camera and made her feel more at ease in a field she had never planned to work in. The Big Valley was a Western show on ABC from 1965 to 1969. Linda Evans was 23 years old when she was cast as Audra Barkley. It was the most important event in her career. The show showed how the rich Barkley family tried to keep their ranch in the San Joaquin Valley of California. Ozzie was in all 112 shows, along with Barbara Stanwyck, a Hollywood great, and Lee Majors, a rising star. There was more to Audra Barkley than being the youngest child in the family. She was brave, caring, and didn't mind standing up for what she thought was right. At a time when TV shows were starting to show more strong female characters, Audra stood out. Evans made her one of the most loved characters on the show by giving her a lot of charm and depth. She almost turned down the part at first. At the time, her boyfriend didn't like it, and she thought about leaving, but the directors wouldn't let her out of the deal. Everything changed because of that choice. The show was a hit, and in 1966 it won an Emmy for Best Work in Film Sound Editing. It was more than just a hit show for Evans, it was the chance that made her famous overnight. One of the most important things Evans did in his career was work with Barbara Stanwyck. Stanwyck was known for being very serious and not wasting any time. Evans learned how to get people's attention on screen from her. Evans had a hard time understanding what it meant to be present in a scene at one point that will stay with you forever. Stanwyck didn't say anything, so she just kicked her onto the set while they were shooting. The lesson was learned. Evans said later that that moment gave her faith as an actor. They were closer than just actors. Evans' mother died while the show was running. Stanwyck helped her feel better and even told her, "I'll be your mom now." That simple phrase meant a lot. Stanwyck was a big part of Evans's life and more than just a guide. She taught Evans the value of discipline and hard work, which she took with her throughout her career. By the time The Big Valley finished in 1969, Linda Evans was already a well-known TV star. In the mid-1970s, she moved away from the pretty girl image she had built on TV by taking on risky and surprising parts. She was in the 1974 movie The Klansman with Lee Marvin and Richard Burton. Based on William Bradford Huey's book of the same name, the movie showed a southern town that was on the verge of violence because of race tensions. Evans played Nancy Pottet, a young woman whose attack made things worse between black people in the town and the white police. The movie tried to deal with important social problems, but some reviewers thought it did a bad job of it. A lot of people thought it was selfish instead of making them think. Even with the negative reactions, The Klansman is still important because it shows how race relations were in a very unstable time. It also had an O on it. It's also interesting because it's one of Jay Simpson's first playing jobs. In Mitchell, a police movie with Joe Don Baker that came out in 1975, Evans played a very different part. She played Greta, a old escort who got mixed up in a dangerous, crooked world. In the movie, Baker's character was a tough detective who used his own brand of justice to go after strong crooks. Greta was more than just a girl I liked. She was involved in the movie's bigger problems, which made her an important part of the story. At the time, Mitchell wasn't liked by many. The New York Times called it mindless TV pleasure, and other reviewers said it was nothing to remember. But it got an odd second chance when Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed it in the 1990s. It became a cult favorite because of its over-the-top action and tough guy tropes. Evans' performance showed that she was ready to take chances even in movies that didn't get good reviews. These parts were very different from her time on The Big Valley as Audra Barkley. They gave her the chance to play darker, more complicated roles, but they also showed how hard it was to go from TV to movies. Still, she didn't give up, and it paid off with one of the most important projects of her career. Evans played with Steve McQueen in the 1980 movie Tom Horn. Tom Horn was a famous scout who turned into a vigilante and got caught in a deadly conflict over cattle stealing. The movie was based on his true story. Horn was a man who was troubled by his violent past and trying to find his place in a world that was changing. McQueen played Horn. Evans played Gwendoline Kimmel, a teacher who was one of the few people who got along with Horn and was kind. Her character added warmth to a story that was mostly about breaking the law and betrayal. The creation of Tom Horn had a lot of problems. McQueen's health was already getting worse because she had mesothelioma, a type of cancer that spreads quickly. Because he was sick, his performance had a quiet energy that made it one of the most moving of his career. The movie itself got mixed reviews. Some reviewers liked how deep and real McQueen was, while others thought the pace was off. Tom Horn became more popular over time, especially among Western fans who thought it was one of McQueen's lesser-known movies. Evans saw in the movie that she could work with one of Hollywood's biggest stars and do well. It was also a big change in her work. She kept starring in movies, but her most important part was still to come. She was 39 years old. People thought Linda Evans was too old to play a main lady when she got the part of Crystal Carrington in Dynasty in Hollywood. But director Aaron Spelling didn't follow the normal rules of the business. Evans was both beautiful and friendly, which was exactly what he was looking for. When Dynasty first aired on January 12, 1981, she played Crystal Blake Carrington's secretary who married him. From the beginning, she was paid $15,000 per show. By 1989, that had gone up to $100,000, making her the highest paid actor on TV. Evans got a second chance with this part. She was a big star on the Big Valley in the 1960s, but by the late 1970s her life had changed. Even though it didn't look like it at first, Dynasty was meant to be her large return. The show had a rough first season, coming in at number 29 in the ratings. When Joan Collins joined in 1982 as Blake's ex-wife Alexis Carrington, everything changed. When she got there, Dynasty took off. It was the most watched show in America by 1984, with 20 million people each week. It wasn't enough to look classy when you played Crystal. The job required a lot of hard work. Crystal and Alexis's fight in a lily pond in 1983 is one of the most famous events in the history of the show. The movie was shot over 2 days, and Evans insisted on doing all of her own stunts. 30 million people watched that scene, which became a culture event. Fans loved seeing Crystal and Alexis fight, but things weren't as fun when they weren't on TV. Evans and Collins did not get along well. Collins knew how to steal the show and liked to practice over and over to have control over how a scene went. Evans liked taking a more casual approach. This difference in style made things tense. Collins hit Evans in the jaw by mistake during a fight scene. As a joke, she said, "That's not acting." Evans didn't think it was funny. She once said no to filming a scene at a charity gala where Alexis makes Crystal feel bad. In 1985, when Collins said bad things about Evans's performance at a table read, things got really tense. Evans walked out in a rage. Even though it was stressful, their competition kept people watching. As the season ended with the Moravian Massacre in May 1985, Dynasty's most watched show. In the last part of the story, attackers attacked a royal wedding and Crystal and Alexis were stuck in the chaos. 35 million people watched the show. Evans was having a hard time off-screen though. The stunts hurt her body badly and gave her back pain all the time. She also felt stuck by the plots, which were getting more and more crazy. She had enough by 1989. She only filmed 6 shows of season 9 before she quit. Evans said, "I felt like a puppet. Crystal was trapped and so was I." Even with all the problems, people noticed how well she did. She tied with Barbara Bel Geddes of Dallas for the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Drama Series in 1982. Her name was put forward for 4 more Golden Globes and an Emmy in 1983, but she never won. Her fans loved her. Before Jennifer Aniston's time on Friends, she held the record for most People's Choice Awards, 1 in a row with 5. During the height of her fame, Evans was on the cover of 6 magazines in 1 month. In 1984, she signed a $2 million deal with Crystal Light to be one of the first big TV brand spokespeople. When it came out in 1983, her beauty and workout book sold 500,000 copies. Dynasty got into the most trouble off-screen in 1985 when Rock Hudson played Crystal's ex-boyfriend. It was written in the script that Evans and Hudson would kiss. It wasn't known at the time that he had AIDS. To keep herself safe, Hudson gargled antibacterial mouthwash before the movie. People didn't like Evans after his illness became known. Some crew members wouldn't share a makeup room with her and avoided her. "I became a pariah overnight," she said afterward. Even though ABC thought about not showing the kiss again, 28 million people had already seen it. On the other hand, her fight with Collins never really went away. Evans' performance was made fun of by Collins in 1986, who said her range was from A to B. Evans felt so hurt that she didn't go to any more Dynasty parties for more than 10 years. Collins finally said it in 2006 when they both appeared on Hell's Kitchen. "We were oil and water, but the show needed both." Evans quit Dynasty in 1989, worn out from almost a decade of high-stakes TV. She became one of the most famous people in the 1980s, but it was hard on her. She told people years later that the show made her popular, but it also made her feel stuck.
Still, Dynasty is the part that made her famous and cemented her place in television history. Loss, love, and starting over changed Linda Evans's life. When she married actor and director John Derek for the first time in 1968, it seemed like a Hollywood fairy tale. They met on the set of The Big Valley when she was 25. Even though they were 16 years apart in age, she was pulled to his confidence and charm. His work came first for almost a decade. She stopped playing because he wanted her to focus on being the best wife he could have. They were building a life together, so she did everything she could to make the marriage work. Then on Christmas Day 1973, Derek told her he loved Bo Derek, who was 17 years old. He met Bo on a movie set in Greece when she was only 16 years old. Since they began dating when she was younger, he stayed with her in Europe until she turned 18 to escape being charged with juvenile rape in California. Evans was broken. She later said she thought she wasn't worth anything and even thought about killing herself. Even though the split was complete in 1974, the pain stayed. Following 2 years, Derek married Bo and the two stayed together until Bo's death in 1990. Evans' life was changed in ways she never thought possible by the betrayal, no matter how bad it was. To start over, she called her agent in 1974 and asked for work. Many people told her that Hollywood had moved on without her because she hadn't worked in the business in too long. That wasn't okay with her. She tried to prove herself again by taking on any part she could find. She got the part of Crystal Carrington on Dynasty in 1981, which paid her $100,000 an episode and earned her a gold. After many years, she understood how strange it was. She would never have taken on that job if she had stayed married to Derek. He told her what job she could have and wouldn't let her work on projects without him. She had never been hurt worse than when he betrayed her, but it also set her free. Bo Derek said she still felt bad about what she did decades later, calling the affair a terrible thing that hurt her heart. Evans had long since accepted it, though. She didn't stay mad at Bo. Instead, she forgave him and the two of them became friends. People are still loved even when I'm not with them, Evans once said. I just love differently. She thought her second marriage would be different. Herman was a big name in Los Angeles real estate and she married him in 1975. After her split, she wanted to be stable and Herman seemed like the right person to be with. He helped her get her finances back on track by showing her how to invest in ways that made her a millionaire on her own. But even though their business did well, their marriage did not. Herman wanted a standard housewife, but Evans had found that she loved playing again. They lived different lives and by 1979 they were no longer together. Herman was different from her first husband in that he stayed a friend for life. He gave her their home in Beverly Hills where she lived for many years and he kept giving her money advice. Evans was the first person to be with him when he was told he had thyroid cancer in 1986. As she took care of him during treatment, she even thought about getting married again. At the time, a close friend told that having her back was the best thing that could happen to him. His impact lasted a lifetime even though their partnership ended quickly. She learned about money from him and was able to negotiate huge contracts for Dynasty, which made her one of the highest paid actors on TV. Even though they loved and respected each other, Evans lost faith in marriage after their split. Later she said, I was sick of being a housewife. Now that Stan and I are both successful, the idea of getting married sounds good. But she never did. After 2 bad marriages, she decided to live on her own. After leaving Dynasty in the late 1980s, she made a big decision. She quit Hollywood, bought a house on a lake in Washington state, and stopped being seen by the public. She didn't have to please anyone for the first time in her life. She cut down trees, grew plants, and stopped caring about how she looked. I no longer had to worry about how I looked, she said, thinking about how she used Botox and wigs when she was dating rock singer Yanni. But things weren't always calm when she wasn't in the spotlight. She had a slip disc in 2006 which caused her to be in pain all the time. She was in so much pain that she thought about committing suicide. At the same time, both of her sisters were sick with diseases that could kill them. It was one of the worst times in her life. I really understood why people say maybe I don't want to live, she said later. She made it through everything though and changed how she looked at things. Every painful experience had a I learned I deserved better, she shared. Love came and went. Yanni was 12 years younger than her and they were together for 9 years. She never got married again. At age 81 in 2023, she didn't feel bad about what she did. She told Northwest Primetime, joy doesn't come from being important. It comes from the life you choose. She turned down reality TV offers, wrote a book about finding herself, and became an activist for better elder care after being arrested for DUI at age 74. The accident happened because she was on drugs for her back injury. It was a stark reminder of how hard it was to get over. Her story from being a mistreated wife to becoming an independent woman showed how strong she was. Anything is possible when you reclaim your life, she said once. She wouldn't change a thing if she could. She said, I would not change my past, it made me who I am. Linda Evans left Beverly Hills' high-class life for something very different. She moved to a 70-acre farm in Raynor, Washington in 1989. It was a quiet place with a river, guest cabins, and a small group of close family and friends. She bought the land while she was still in Dynasty, but after she left Hollywood, it was her only place to go. She shared her home with her sister, nephew, and ex-stepdaughter Shay Derrick. I live in heaven here, she said. Her whole way of life changed. She moved to a house with only 2 bedrooms that had lots of natural light. During the day, she gardened and went camping. It was important to her that she wanted something real, not just fame. You want to be where your heart feels safe, she told Oprah, adding that getting up had helped her be more sure of who she is. After being told she had idiopathic edema, she also tried alternative forms of treatment and studied Eastern thought and naturopathy. The Rama School of Enlightenment by J.Z. Knight helped her understand spiritual things better. 40 Mini Linda Evans chose to live in Washington because of a controversial group. Evans was already pushing the idea that beauty and health are linked a long time before wellness culture became popular. She wrote the Linda Evans Beauty and Exercise book, a 125-page book about exercise, skincare, and mental health, which came out in 1983. Over 500,000 copies of the book, which was published by Simon & Schuster, were bought. There were step-by-step workouts, skincare routines, and mantras like beauty begins within. She worked on the project with her ex-stepdaughter Sean Catherine Derrick, who added ideas like intuitive eating and meditation that weren't common in the 1980s fitness culture. In 1992, she went even further with her health and fitness ideas by opening Linda Evans Fitness Centers, a chain of clubs for women run by CEO Mark Galoff. The health centers focused on overall wellness and had exercise classes set to music by Yanni, who was her boyfriend at the time. Even after the gyms closed, Evans stayed dedicated to health and beauty. She later hosted infomercials for Rejuvenique and an electric mask that tones the face. She said, I wanted to help women feel strong, not just look strong, which showed that exercise was more than just how she looked. Evans won Hell's Kitchen in 2009, making her the oldest winner in the show's history. No one saw that coming at age 66. People in the UK were shocked when she beat comic Adrienne Edmondson in the live finals. 5.48 million people saw it. Even more shocking was the fact that she had never worked as a professional cook. Her cooking skills were mostly limited to making meals at home and remembering recipes for Dynasty kitchen scenes. She had a rough start on the show. Head chef Marco Pierre White threw her out of the kitchen on the first day for cooking scallops too long, telling her, "You're not ready to hold a pan." Just as hard were the physical challenges. She was the first person to kill a live eel with her bare hands in a fish market dare. She later said, I chose to learn even if it meant becoming a killer. Her big moment came when Mario Batali was the judge on a pasta task. Her lobster and truffle ravioli were better than dishes made by trained chefs, which showed she wasn't just a novelty candidate. White later praised her unwavering grace under pressure, which was very different from younger rivals like Bruce Gravelar, who quit, and Anthea Turner, who was kicked off because she couldn't handle a knife well. Evans gave her £100,000 prize to charity, but what she really won was the respect of the art world. She won Hell's Kitchen in the most surprising way, and fans from the UK are now asking about trips to Seattle 237% more often. Evans, who is 79 years old, got back into acting after 18 years. He played a strong part in Swan Song 2021, an independent film that had its world premiere at SX. The part of Rita Parker Sloan, a former opera star who has to deal with old age and losing her fame, was very close to my heart. She used the fact that she had chronic fatigue syndrome in the 1990s to make her show more real. Evans gave a powerful performance while working with seasoned art house artists like Udo Kier and Jennifer Kulash. One scene stood out in a single. Her character put on makeup while her hands were shaking. She practiced it for 3 weeks, making sure that every move showed how vulnerable getting. Rotten Tomatoes gave the movie a score of 92%, and reviewers said that she was a lot like Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. Even though she was only on TV for 11 minutes, people will remember her. Streaming views of her 1983 TV movie Bare Essence went up 41% in the month after Swan Song came out. When she came back in the 2000s and 2020s, she reached a whole new group of people. Videos of her famous fight with Joan Collins on Dynasty got 14 million views, 2 million times on TikTok. Her eel scene from Hell went viral and reached 9.7 million hits. Gen Z became interested in her all of a sudden. The fashion world also paid attention. Her silver ball gown from the famous Dynasty episode The Malavian Massacre sold for $47,000 in 2022, which was 325% more than its original. Evans has never taken a road that was easy to see coming. She went from being a soap opera star to exploring her spirituality, and from being an exercise expert to an unexpected culinary champion. She doesn't just like to reinvent herself, it's who she is.